It started with a disappearing broom and strange piles of dirt for the Peron family in 1971. Soon, their 5 daughters saw shadowy figures, bedroom doors creaked open on their own, and every morning at 5:15, beds shook so hard they thought the house might come apart. Roger Perron described a cold, stinking presence lingering in the basement. The smell of decay drifted through empty rooms, making every breath a reminder of something unseen. This wasn't a slow build. Carolyn Perron suffered unexplained bruises and, according to her own account, a puncture wound shaped like a large sewing needle, an image that became central to the Bathsheba legend. We're about to recount their most harrowing moments, the ones too intense for the film, straight from their accounts. But what could cause such relentless fear? What lay beneath the soil to trigger a nightmare that would haunt a family and fascinate the world? The cursed land echoes before the Perrons. Long before the Peron family ever set foot in their farmhouse, the land itself held a reputation that stretched back through centuries. This ground wasn't just the backdrop for ghost stories. It was the stage for generations of real lives, hardships, and whispered legends. The story of the Conjuring House begins not with the house, but with the land beneath it. Original deeds show John Smith, a Virginia colonist, laid out the property in 1680, planting the first documented seeds of its long, troubled history. The land was soon deeded to the Richardson family, followers of Roger Williams, the founder of Rhode Island and a champion of religious freedom. The Richardsons, having left Massachusetts after Williams' banishment, sought a new start here. Their presence marked the beginning of a pattern. People drawn to this place for hope, only to leave behind stories that hinted at something darker. Over time, the property became part of the Arnold estate, and the land's identity shifted with each new owner. It was known as the Richardson House, the Arnold estate, and later Old Brook Farm. Every name change reflected not just a new family, but a new layer of history, each with its own set of memories, rumors, and tragedies. Records show the land was first deeded in 1680 to followers of Roger Williams, and local lore linked the property to scattered colonial-era incidents, but concrete details remain lost to time. What we do know is that the house built here in 1736 stood through coastal storms, wars, and the changing face of America, its walls quietly absorbing every story. The farmhouse itself became a silent witness to centuries of life and loss. Through the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and the rise of industry, families moved in and out, each leaving their mark. Some residents spoke in hushed tones about odd happenings, unexplained noises, objects moving on their own, a heaviness in certain rooms that never quite lifted. These weren't dramatic tales of evil, but a pattern of unease that lingered across decades. The house, with its creaking floors and drafty halls, seemed to collect these stories like dust in the corners. The Peron family wasn't the first to notice that something felt off. Previous owners reported strange events, but often kept quiet, hoping not to draw attention. It was as if the house wanted to keep its secrets, letting just enough slip to unsettle, but never enough to drive everyone away. This quiet history of discomfort set the stage for what the Perrons would eventually endure. Carolyn Perron, reflecting on her family's ordeal, described the house as a portal cleverly disguised as a farmhouse, hinting at multiple layers of unseen energy. Her words weren't just about ghosts. They suggested a place where the past and present blurred, where old pain and fear might seep into everyday life. With every new family, the house seemed to gather more stories, more sorrow, and perhaps more power. The land's earliest days, mapped by John Smith, settled by those seeking freedom, and shaped by the harsh realities of colonial life, created a foundation that was anything but ordinary. Local legends grew in the gaps left by missing records, filling the silence with tales of sorrow and misfortune. Whether or not every rumor was true, the sense of unease became part of the property's identity. So when the Perron family arrived in 1971, hoping for a fresh start in the quiet countryside, they stepped into a legacy far older and more complex than they could have imagined. The house waited, its history pressing in from every wall and floorboard, ready to reveal itself in ways no one could predict. And what happened next, inside those walls, would go far beyond what any film could show. Beyond the movie, the Perrons' full nightmare and the Warrens' shadow. Inside the farmhouse, the Peron family's ordeal unfolded in ways the movie could never fully capture. Beyond flickering lights and creaking doors, their daily life became a pattern of relentless fear. The most unsettling ritual happened at 5:15 every morning. According to Andrea Peron, the eldest daughter, their beds would shake so violently that no one could sleep through it. This wasn't just a bad dream or an isolated scare. It was a shared trauma that greeted them with the same intensity each day. The house seemed determined to remind them of its presence, and that sense of dread hung over every morning. Carolyn Perron, the mother, suffered more than just sleepless nights. She described being physically attacked, most notably discovering a deep, unexplained puncture wound on her leg. The smell of rotting flesh would sometimes fill the house, making everyone feel sick. Disembodied voices whispered in the darkness and sometimes spoke clear, chilling words. One of the youngest daughters, April, once said she heard a voice claim, "There are 7 dead soldiers buried in the wall." No matter where they turned, the Perrons couldn't escape the feeling that they were being watched and toyed with. Central to their fear was the entity they called Bathsheba. Unlike the shadowy presence shown in the film, the Perrons described Bathsheba as an angry, territorial spirit. Andrea Perron believed Bathsheba saw herself as the rightful mistress of the house and resented Carolyn's presence. They blamed Bathsheba for hurling objects, slamming doors, and even cracking glass without warning, acts that went far beyond mere creaks and shadows. The sense of competition between Carolyn and this unseen force added another layer to the family's anxiety. With the situation spiraling, Carolyn reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous paranormal investigators. The Warrens' arrival marked a turning point, but not all of it brought comfort. Their investigation led to the house's most notorious moment, a séance in which Carolyn allegedly spoke in tongues and lifted in her chair. This event terrified the family and left Roger Perron, the father, so disturbed that he demanded the Warrens leave the property. Skeptics later questioned their methods and motives, suggesting some phenomena could stem from the house's creaky floors or family stress rather than the supernatural. The Warrens' involvement added controversy. Their reputation as ghost hunters was already complicated, and their time at the Peron house only deepened the debate. After the séance, the family didn't leave right away. They stayed until 1980, living with the house's lingering tension for years. Meanwhile, the film's focus on Bathsheba Sherman as a child-murdering witch has been widely debunked. Bathsheba Thayer Sherman was a 19th century Rhode Island farmer's wife who died of a stroke in 1885. There's no record of witchcraft or infanticide tied to her. The real Bathsheba's life was ordinary, and she was buried in Harrisville Cemetery, far from the legends that grew around her name. Andrea Perron's trilogy, House of Darkness, House of Light, remains the main source for the family's experiences. Yet, even these books have been called into question for inconsistencies and the mention of people who can't be traced. Later, owners of the house have expressed doubts about the more sensational claims, and investigators like Kenny Biddle have pointed out rational explanations for some of the so-called evidence. For example, the famously bouncy floor could be blamed on the home's age and construction, not restless spirits. The 7 dead soldiers story doesn't match up with local records. Still, the sheer number of strange events the Perrons reported over nearly a decade makes their story hard to dismiss completely. Their unwavering belief in what they lived through, set against skeptical voices and historical facts, leaves us with a haunting puzzle. The shadow of the Warrens, the legend of Bathsheba, and the family's own memories all blend together, creating a tale that's as much about the power of fear and belief as it is about ghosts. As we weigh the facts, the rumors, and the lasting scars left by those years, it's clear that the story of the Peron family and their farmhouse isn't easily untangled. The truth, whatever it may be, lies somewhere between the shadows and the light, waiting for us to decide what to believe. Inside those old walls, the Conjuring House still draws visitors hoping to witness something they can't explain. Owner Jacqueline Nunez openly expects to encounter the supernatural, and the house continues to host tours and overnight investigations for those drawn to its reputation. Even recent owners, like the Heinzen family, have reported doors swinging open on their own, a reminder that the story may not be finished. No matter which side you choose, the Conjuring House dares you to decide for yourself, and its secrets remain buried in the dark. What secrets do you think are still hidden there? Drop a comment. Do you think the soil still holds untold horrors? Or is there a logical explanation for the unease here?